May 17th. I like it here. Dad says it's just temporary. He says we'll move on when Mom comes back. I let him think I like it more than I do, but I don't think it matters. He's still gonna wait for Mom. No matter how tired Lori and I are of moving all the time, it's not gonna make a difference. This house is amazing, though. I make Father believe it's the nicest home Lori and I have ever seen in hopes that he'll let us stay. But on some level, I really do believe what I say. This place is absolutely gorgeous. It has an entire guest wing, complete with 2 bedrooms, a shared bathroom, an office, and an unusually sturdy door at the end of the entry hall to this wing. The rest of the home is as you'd expect: a living room, kitchen, master bedroom, smaller bedroom, all the usual amenities one would require to live comfortably. The guest wing seems a little out of place, almost like it was an afterthought. Lori and I, though, we don't really care about all that. This guest wing is our own home. We only just moved in, but we have immediately come to the conclusion that Dad will rarely spend time in this area of the house. And why should he? He has his basement. Come to think of it, all these houses are a blur, but even so, I remember. They all have basements. May 29th, we're finally unpacked. I was right. It didn't take Dad long to begin retreating to his sub-level sanctuary every day. This time is different, I think. Dad didn't look for a job or call any relatives. Lori isn't even prepared to go back to school. Is there even a school nearby? I think I'll give Dad some time to get settled before I ask about it. Maybe he's looking for the right place. Lori doesn't adjust well, and she tends to draw a lot of attention with her outward disabilities. She's a wonderful girl and a beautiful soul, but people are terrible, and they only see with their eyes. They don't like what they see when they look at Lori, but none of them truly look. Maybe Dad is trying to find the place that's best for her. June 4th. I'm not sure what's going on. Dad still hasn't found a job, and Lori has been asking about what she's supposed to do for school next year. Dad won't talk to her. He hardly looks at her. She doesn't understand. I guess I don't either. She's so young. She couldn't begin to understand even if I tried to explain it. June 5th. Dad is getting worse. He still won't talk to Lori. He hardly talks to me, but at least he's acknowledging that I exist. Sometimes this happens. He has bad weeks. Sometimes he has bad months. I think it's safe to let him think. Maybe I'll go for a walk today with Lori. Before we moved, Dad was so excited. He told us, "Girls, we're gonna get a taste of nature. This is the change we've been looking for. This is the change we need. This is the change that your mother wants to come back to." We've never lived anywhere but cities until now, and what I see outside is intimidating to say the least. There's fields almost endlessly in all directions. The scenery is only broken by these small rolling hills and a few hundred yards to the south. Is it the south? I don't actually know now that I think of it. Is a tree. It's a gnarled, ancient-looking thing with white bark flaking off of its every surface. It looks like it's spent its entire life carrying an unbearable weight, its trunk bending, the branches heaving as the elderly do over their walkers. June 5th. I took Lori out for a walk. Dad was on the couch when we passed him, staring at the basement door. He looked like he hasn't slept in weeks. Something he said wasn't right. It took me until a moment ago to piece it together. He's said for years, "When Mom comes home, finish that statement with anything you like," and I guarantee Dad has said it. "We'll go fishing again. We'll finally go see the local fair, but you have to wait for Mom to come home." Only today, I told Dad where I was going and set out to explore without another word. Quietly, almost at a whisper, he said to our backs, "I'll come get you when I find Mom." Maybe I'm exhausted from the move. It could be the jet lag or the change in altitude. I think I heard him wrong, and I feel even more foolish now that I've written it down. Tomorrow's a new day. I hope the sun comes out for once. June 6th, a.m. It's foggy again today. The mist outside is so thick. It's never sunny here, and I just don't get it. I can barely see that ugly tree. After breakfast, Lori asked to go for a walk again, but I just don't think I have it in me today. Besides, we haven't gone far enough from the house to meet any other people. I don't want to get lost out there when we can't see. I don't know what we'd do if we got lost. Dad was in the basement all night last night and went to sleep just as I was coming out of the guest wing to make breakfast. There's no way he'd hear us shouting out there now. I know how he sleeps after he's been working on the basement. I think I'll look around the house a little more. Maybe I'll try and occupy Lori today. She's getting anxious, and that usually means she's going to get crabby. She can't really help it. She's always been sensitive. Mom never understood that. Dad didn't either. He still won't speak to her, and he gets this sad look when he sees her, like he doesn't know how to interact with her. Like she's frightening him. June 6th, p.m. Lori and I spent the day exploring the house. It's a game I made up when I was young. When Lori would get the way she does and Dad wouldn't let us leave the house, it was up to me to distract her. I hated seeing her punished. Dad would always put her in her room and hook the chain from the outside and scream at us, asking how we expected him to work on the basement with all of the goddamn noise. I learned fast after Mom left. I learned how to avoid crossing Dad. He was normally such a happy person. I was too young to remember much before Mom left, but even after, he was a decent person. At least for a while. As the years and the houses went by in a whirlwind of activity, he became more irritable, more unpredictable, and volatile. He's just woken up. I can hear him moving around. He's going back to the basement. June 6th. We don't go in the basement. June 8th. Dad slept in the basement last night. He came up the stairs this morning covered in dirt. He didn't say anything, just took the padlock out of his pocket and put it on the basement door before leaving in his truck. He came back a few hours later with groceries. It's still daytime. Maybe I'll go for a walk to that tree with Lori. June 9th. Lori got in trouble. It's terrible here. There are no other people anywhere near us. I can't figure out why Dad would bring us somewhere like this. It's so foggy, I can't even see the tree. I told Lori that we couldn't go for a walk today and that she had to find something to do in her room while I tried to get the padlock open to the basement. I was so distracted trying to get into the basement that I didn't even see her leave. I had given up on the combination lock to the basement right as Dad woke up. He walked straight into the guest wing and straight to Lori's room. He came back out screaming, asking where she was. Frantically, I told him I didn't know, that I wasn't watching her, and she must be somewhere in the house. Dad stormed outside, leaving the door open behind him as he walked straight to the ugly tree. I followed him and watched. He climbed the tree, going all the way up to where Lori was sitting. He was growling like an animal, furiously asking her why you don't want to help find Mom, and you fucking know it's your fault, don't you? Dad marched Lori back to the house, storming past me. He shoved her inside and turned, staring at me while I made my way back to the front door. If she doesn't want to stay here until I find Mom, I'll make sure she doesn't leave. Rules are rules, Lori, and you don't fucking break the rules. Dad was screaming by now, his face red and sweaty, spit gathering in the corners of his mouth like a dog. Dad left the house in his truck again right after putting Lori in her room and installing a new chain on the outside of her door. I'd hoped he didn't have a chain this time. Dad always has the chain. And the padlocks. When Dad came back, he started to dismantle the door and frame leading into the guest wing. He was sanding the jagged edges of what used to be our ornate door frame and mixing some kind of grayish mud. He stopped after tidying up the hole left in the wall, all the while talking to himself and apologizing to Mom. Apologizing for letting Lori misbehave. He's in the basement now. It's getting dark. I think I'll sneak into Lori's room for the night and make sure she's alright. Writing in this helps me, and I think it helps Lori too. I have to be strong enough for both of us, and these pages are the only thing I can talk to. Dad doesn't like to leave the basement. June 10th. Dad made me move my things. This morning he came up from the basement and asked me to come with him. He led me to the attic trap door where he pulled the cord, dropping the stairs. he went up to the dark upper level of the home and disappeared. Though I can't say why, I was certain in that instant that my father would never return from the attic. I had horrible images of Lori and I stuck here in this house in the middle of nowhere being watched by something living in the shadows of the home. I was just opening my mouth to shout for him when he dropped empty cardboard boxes, nearly hitting me with them. "Sorry, dear," he said. "They're not heavy. They're empty, I promise." Dad then climbed down with some more boxes. "Come on, follow me." And he walked away. In another moment of childish terror, I knew I was being watched. As Dad left the attic stairs down, now of course all of this was in my head, but I think this place is getting to me. The fog, the noises from the basement. Dad brought me to my room and started grabbing my belongings, haphazardly stuffing boxes. "We have to clean up, dear. Your new room is already cleaned and ready to move all of your things in." I pleaded with Father to let me stay, that I would make sure Lori didn't sneak off anymore. I made promises to stop imaginary transgressions, just hoping one promise or another would stick. I screamed and Dad moved my things. Now I'm writing from my bedroom on the second floor of the main home, across the hall from Dad. Lori is locked in her room. I want to see Lori. June 10th, late o'clock. Dad is talking to something. He's been pacing back and forth all over the house for hours, just mumbling and walking up and down all of the hallways. From what I can see, he doesn't even have any lights on. I heard him pull the attic stairs down, and shortly after, he was fumbling with the padlock on the basement door. I heard Dad walk down the basement stairs. The staircase is very loud, but never heard him come back up. I only heard him lock the door again. Then he came upstairs and closed the attic again. He's been sitting on the couch since then, talking in a quiet voice, but I can't hear what he's saying. I hope he goes to sleep soon. June 13th. When Dad goes to the basement, I go to Lori's room. That's my plan anyway. He spends so much time in there in any case, I don't think he would ever notice if I wasn't in my room. I've been trying to figure out some kind of schedule for him, but he never does the same thing at the same time. He's unpredictable as hell, and I think I will just deal with the consequences if he catches me in Lori's room. If he would let her out, this wouldn't be a problem. She hasn't been allowed to leave since Dad put the lock on for anything but bathroom use and to eat on the rare occasions she chooses to do so. Fuck it. I'm going down there. I miss my sister. June 13th, late o'clock. Daddy is digging again. Lori doesn't talk much. I've mentioned in the past that I talked to Lori, or Lori and I were talking, but you have to understand that what I truly mean by that is we connect. We're sisters, and we're close as close can be. She doesn't have to explain herself or even use full sentences, and we're on the same page by default. She listens and she observes. She's always listening, and she's always watching. Just because Lori doesn't talk doesn't mean she can't talk. She talks when she has something truly important to say, and only then will she speak. I came downstairs a few hours ago, doing my best James Bond impression. Made it to Lori's room quickly and quietly, while Dad was still in the basement. When I closed the door, she was staring at me wide-eyed. "Daddy is digging again," was all she said. She was hugging this silly little panda doll she usually kept in her closet, her eyes moist. She's been asleep for a while now. I think I'll go back to my room. June 14th. I fucked up. Dad caught me. He fucking caught me. I was coming out of Lori's room and got to the foot of the stairs in the main entrance of the home. I heard him coming, storming up the stairs from the basement, rattling the lock on the basement door with his footsteps. At least I thought he was coming up the stairs until I heard him shout from the top of the second floor. It was then that it all came together, the lock on the outside of the basement door. Dad wasn't in the basement. He'd locked the door. I was looking at the locked padlock. Then what was coming up the stairs? Was it my imagination? Maybe he'd stomped on his way to the top of the stairs, and that's why it sounded like he was coming from the basement. The house is fucking with my head. Dad lost it. He started shouting at me for sneaking around and breaking the fucking rules. He began to babble aimlessly, the only discernible words, Lori and manipulative. Dad grabbed me by the arm and pulled me in my room, stating plainly that I was grounded and expected to remain within my room unless told otherwise. I heard him all day. He was talking to himself and working on something. It wasn't until dinner time that I saw. Dad completely closed the guest wing. He completed the wall save for a vent 3x2. Where the door used to be, Dad locked Lori into the guest wing by literally sealing her inside. He slid a plate through the vent, which was on a hinge. He flipped the vent closed again and locked it with a key before making his way to the dining room and getting our plates ready. Terrified, I asked Dad why he did what he did. No matter how I phrased my question or how loudly I cried about my sister, he only replied with simply, "She can't keep Mother away if Mother doesn't know she's here." I refused to eat, but that didn't bother Dad. As soon as he finished eating, I sat on the couch facing the basement door and stared. I thought, I still have a chance to fix this. And so I continued to bawl and sob while pleading with Dad to let Lori out. He just kept staring at the basement door with this little smirk on his face. When I had finally ran out of energy and tears, Dad looked at me, smiled, and said simply, "Mother will be back when she's ready." He turned his head and looked at the basement door again and finished his statement. "Right, honey?" July 1st. I haven't written in quite some time. I haven't felt like it. I've spent my days sitting alongside the vent talking to Lori, to keep trying to convince Dad to let her out, and at least for the first few days. He always ignored me and would spend all day sitting on the couch staring at the basement door. It wasn't until a week later, while I was throwing what Dad used to call a tantrum, when I heard Lori trying to talk to me through the vent. When she finally got my attention, she asked me to leave Dad alone. Father took this opportunity to vacate the living room and venture upstairs, likely to escape, as he had been the focal point of my rage for quite some time. I was furious. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Leave him alone? He was going insane, had sealed off an entire section of our home with my baby sister inside, and I was expected to shrug it off? I began stammering and eventually blurted out a mostly complete sentence in a form of, "Lori, why? What? Leave him? He thinks he's going to find Mom. What do you mean, leave him alone?" She whimpered quietly from beyond the wall, but didn't say anything immediately. My rage unabated, I continued to chastise her and tell her all the things grown-ups need to do, about all they need to stand up for themselves, and they can't let people like Dad win. When I had finally exhausted myself, I asked her simply, "Why should I leave Dad alone, Lori?" "Because I'm safe in here." My fury renewed. I began to build up steam again while reciting my self-righteous list of reasons why she was safer with me than locked in a fire hazard. She was silent throughout, as she is known to be. Listening to me, I knew. She never ignores me or anyone else. She's just a very good listener. I knew she wasn't going to justify any of my grandiose claims about being her rescuer, so once I had again run out of energy and patience for holding an argument with myself, I asked her very plainly, in a manner of questioning which she respects and which yields more results more often than not, "Lori, why are you safer in there than you are out here?" She didn't respond right away, and I caught the faint sound of her shirt slipping down the opposite side of the wall from me. Her breathing became audible, and it was then that I realized she must have her face near the vent. Perhaps she wants to whisper, I thought, and so I placed my face by the vent as well. Lori was not looking at me, she was staring at the basement door. "Lori?" I asked again, the silence growing uncomfortable. "Lori, why are you safer in there?" She turned to me as though I had slapped her, her eyes red and rimmed with moisture, and her breathing rapid and ragged. She spoke quickly and quietly in a harsh whisper. "Daddy is digging again." Just then, I heard a footstep on the first stair of the basement leading up to the living room. Distracted by the noise, I didn't see Lori leave, but I heard her scrambling to her feet and let out a short gasp. She ran away all the way down the guest wing hall to her bedroom, where she promptly slammed her door. The footsteps continued up the stairs at deliberate pace. I had no idea how many steps there were, and so I was jerked violently out of my trance when they stopped, and the door was promptly shaken viciously in its frame. The handle spinning wildly left to right, then left again. I began to cry noiselessly, whining like an abused animal and cowering simultaneously. The ruckus ceased, and I heard Dad's voice from the top of the stairs. "What's wrong?" he asked. I didn't respond. I am too scared. I ran up the stairs past him and locked myself in my room. It was then it occurred to me, he'd never looked at me. I don't think he was asking me what was wrong. He was staring at the basement door and had even before he asked the question. I heard Dad going down the stairs from the second floor to the living room. Did I hear the basement stairs at the same time? I think this is why I haven't written in a while. I don't like to think about what happens here. So I have spent the better part of a month spending time with Lori, or within as close of a proximity as I'm able, considering the barriers. I hadn't heard whatever is in the basement again until today. I went for a walk to the ugly tree where I spent quite some time. I was just coming back into the house when I heard it. Dad was sitting on the couch, staring at the basement door again, and I heard ragged, uneven breathing. I stopped, listening closely in an attempt to determine the source of the uncomfortable breathing. It was coming from the opposite side of the basement door. It was heavy, almost painful intakes of breath, followed by a slow wheezing release of that same air. I was terrified. I tried to get past Dad without him noticing me, but I had waited too long. I had listened too long. When I snapped back to reality, Dad was looking at me with the same grin he has worn for a month. "Mother wants to speak to you," was all he said. He turned away from me and resumed his watchful eye over the basement door. It was this that forced my hand to pick up the pen once again. I am not safe. Lori is not safe. If anything is to happen to us, I at least want my record to have a chance at being found. If I don't record this, then who will? July 2nd. Lori is frail. She's tiny and always has been. This has been a struggle for her, among other things, most of her life. But now it seems it is working in her favor. She begged me to go to the ugly tree today and said that she was certain she could fit through the vent if we could only get it open. I was determined to win just this once. I wanted to come out ahead again. I searched around for the key for a while, though I was sure Dad had it on him somewhere. Of course, I was also very confident that Dad was sleeping. He's still unpredictable, as he has always been, sleeping during the day sometimes, maybe not sleeping at all other times. Today I was lucky enough that he had spent the night watching the basement and was sound asleep by the time I formulated my master plan. I went to his room and poked around his belongings. His room is a mess, clothing all over the place heaped into great piles. They're covered in dirt and grime, like he's been crawling around in the yard on his stomach after a rainstorm. Nastiness aside, it didn't take me long to find the key ring he uses for the vent and the basement. Elated, I took my prize and raced downstairs. I began tapping out a rhythm on the vent quietly, and it took only a few moments for Lori to catch on. She was at the vent, crawling through just as I was opening it. Concealing our signs of passage, I locked the vent once again and we made our way outside. For one beautiful moment, everything felt normal again, as though it was just another day in the new house. And just another adventure through the fog to the ugly tree. We've been out here for a few hours now. It must be midday, though I have no real way of knowing without a clock out here. Lori brought this old chunk of metal outside with us. It looks like a piece of a bed frame. She's been shaving bits off of the ugly tree since we came out here and hasn't said a word. But that's fine. She doesn't have to talk. I just wanted to be with her. I wonder what she's carving, though. Dad is coming. July 2nd, time unknown. I can hear him laughing. Dad caught us. We aren't supposed to be at the tree. Lori isn't supposed to be out of her cage. Dad came storming outside screaming, but he didn't sound angry at first. He was absolutely terrified of something. You're not supposed to be with her. She's supposed to be inside her cage, not with you, not out here, not where Mom can see. Get the fuck back inside, get inside now. I couldn't find the words to argue. When I hesitated, he launched into a flurry of tears and gestures while screeching over and over again, "Get inside, get inside, get inside, get inside." He looked like a wild animal with his eyes bugging out, his face purple as he was screeching so loudly. He kept getting closer, staring at me and screaming. I couldn't help myself, so scared was I at the unraveling of his mental strings that I just ran to the house. I ran close by him, and he stopped howling just long enough to say quietly, "Wait until Mother hears what you've done." I heard Lori screaming after that, but I'm too much of a coward. I couldn't stop. I just kept running, straight into the house and up to my room. I can hear him now. He locked the vent, the sounds of which I could just barely hear over the sound of the basement stairs. Whatever it is Dad has in the basement, it's pacing up and down the stairs. Once in a while, I hear it slam against the door, causing it to creak and flex under the pressure. Then it stops and continues its methodical pacing, up and down, up and down, up. He's getting closer. Dad is coming for me. "Lydia, Mother wants to speak to you." I can hear him laughing. July. He put me in the basement. He told me Mother wanted to talk to me. He said he warned me, told me to behave. "Daddy went easy on you. Wait until your mother hears what you've done." I hid my journal in my pants before he broke into my room. I was scared he would take it from me. Fucking stupid of me. Scared of losing a notebook. I didn't know what fear was. She's down here with me. I can't see her, but I can hear her. Her breathing. It's breathing. Ragged, shallow, and uneven. Wheezing constantly like a punctured tire. Sometimes it comes from above me, other times it's next to me, but it's too dark down here to see much. It's not pitch black, but the shadows are thick. I don't think my body has the capacity to feel fear anymore because I'm not scared. I'm curious, and I know what being down here could mean. But I just can't feel anything about it anymore. I should have called someone when all of this started. Dad hasn't been right since that day, and I just kept telling myself he knows best, and to not worry because he's Dad, and dads are invincible, right? After Mom hung herself, things were never the same again.